Welcome back, Smite fans, to week 2 of the North American SCL. My name's Tiger, here on the desk with Anatoly. By the way, really excited to cast with you here today. And we're going to be looking at Kingdom versus Eager.
Yeah, both of these teams right now struggling a little bit with only 0 points to their name, both of them having a loss. Kingdom losing to Elevate, Eager unfortunately dropping their set to Most Wanted.
I mean, it was a rough go for a lot of them. Aware really just stepping up, showing where they were going, and Most Wanted showing why they were the first and last split.
Yeah, and both of these teams right now, they're still trying to figure out their identity right now. Kingdom, for example, they went through some crazy role swaps, some roster changes, and Eager as well.
I mean, Eager, yeah, they switched out Jellly and Myflin, switching out from the jungle to the support role. And Kingdom, we're going to have a couple of new names showing up today when we get into the game. Last week we had roster changes. This week we have changes, swaps. So from the player mentality, like, how does that affect you coming into the split? It's week 2, so it's still pretty fresh, but...
That's the thing, the fact that this is week 2 of the SCL North America, it means it's very easy for Kingdom to still go through some of these changes. They're trying to figure out their identity, and they can go through different strategies if they want to, different roles that they want to. There's a lot of flexibility between solo and hunter. We've seen it also in the SPL, in Europe specifically, Torpedo's Game Hunter and Moix always constantly ping-ponging. So it's not the worst thing to do in the world, as long as it's still early in the split when you're still trying to qualify for LAN.
Yeah, but if you're Eager, switching out Jellly and Myflin, you kind of have a hard time last week. It doesn't look like they switched back, so is it better to go ahead and try and build yourself up back into this new roster, or go back to what was comfortable?
Well, they made it to the LAN the last split. They made it to the finals against Most Wanted as their original roster, where they had Myflin in jungle and Jellly in the support role. Now going for different style, I don't really mind it so much for them to keep sticking to it, because if that's the goal that they really need to figure out to how they conquer Most Wanted in that finals, then just go for it. Try these little different role swaps.
All right, and speaking of these roles here, we saw a lot of Zeus. We saw a lot of Raijin. Which one do you think's really gonna take first pick here when it comes into these games soon?
We saw a lot of Zeus last week in the SL, and a lot of success with Zeus. Specifically Eager, they were struggling very heavily against the Zeus. We saw them in their set against Most Wanted, where they ran the Odin-Zeus combination the first game, and they made it work. Cloud was doing work, Wolves was doing work with the Odin, and then the second game, it was Eager that picked up the Odin, trying to counter the Guan Yu, but they didn't pick up the Zeus to pair up with it. They had the Raijin with the Hunbat's jungle, and unfortunately, it didn't really work out to set up the Raijin damage.
And they weren't the only teams that really focused in on that Zeus. Aware taking all 4 games with Zeus in the mid lane, doing a really good job, but I'm wondering if the other teams are going to follow suit.
It's really impressive that Aware was able to find those 4 wins coming from the Challenger Cup and now making a huge name for themselves. Layers of Death had an MVP performance this last week, and I definitely expect more targeted picks and bans towards that Zeus.
Yeah, well, speaking of picks and bans, here they are. Team Eager versus Kingdom Esports. It's going to be a best of 2 coming out. If you win 1, you get 1 point. If you win both, you get 3. If you split, each one of you gets 1 point in those standings. And first ban, we were just talking about him, that's going to be a Zeus.
And that's the thing right now. Eager, they're not comfortable playing the Zeus, even though they have the first pick. They'd rather go for a jungle pick more than likely. Nemesis having to be banned by Kingdom, so as a result, Eager, with the Guan Yu ban, they're probably leaning more towards the Susano first pick, I would say, for Jellly, trying to get that mobility for his team.
Now, yeah, I was going to say, Fafnir was still available. That is going to be that last pick coming in. So you think of Susano coming in. What kind of team would you be able to draft around that, though?
Anything to follow up from his initiation. He's going to be looking for the jet stream from a distance, finding the pull right off the bat, no hesitation, locking in the Susano. You can run so many mid gods with that, and your 3v3 jungle fights between your support, middle, and jungle should be really effective, especially if you can figure out a way to chain off of his crowd control.
Synergy definitely comes into play with those fights, and it's going to be up to Kingdom Esports to really show that with all these roster swaps, but Raijin going to be the first locked in. Zeus was the priority, and Raijin going to be that really big burst presence in the mid lane.
And the beautiful thing about Raijin is that he has those long-range artillery shots with his ultimate, so you need to figure out a way to get a jungler, more than likely going to be Thor, to set him up for his easy damage. Sometimes you don't always want to Thunder Crash your way in, so you're relying on some setup from your support and jungle.
Yeah, and I mean, it's nice when you can use it as damage, but it's best kept as an escape, just to get Raijin out of some sticky situations, because Susano is going to be able to pull you back in, going to stick to you like nobody's business. Bacchus picked up from Kingdom Esports as well, a very aggressive support.
And that's what you need to pair up with a Raijin. He's very immobile while he's in his ultimate form, which leaves Eager the flexibility to try to go all in on him. But if you're the team that's going to go all in with the Bacchus initiation, then you're going to find the kills first to allow the Raijin the safety that he needs in his own backline.
A little bit of a safety net there, especially a little bit of wombo combo coming out of those knockups from Bacchus as well. But Ravana picked up for Eager. Isn't Dwurst a fan?
Oh, he loves Robin. I think he played Robin almost every single game against Most Wanted in that best-of-5 final set. And we saw him against Most Wanted the last week when he tried to run Odin against Wolves' Loki. Didn't have so much success. He's more of a bully type of player, Dwurst, I would say, and Odin didn't fit that style. So now going back to his roots with the Robin.
The first guy did in that matchup. It was Xingtian that was able to really throw his own weight around. But Eager gonna pick up this Soul. It is worth mentioning they did ban that out. Did ban out the Robin against Most Wanted last week, but they're going to pick it up this week because they want to go ahead and use that. If it doesn't work, I mean, try something new.
And with that, it's going to be Soul and Chronos. These magical hunters definitely showing themselves with the removal of the throwing dagger, the golden bow. These physical hunters not as popular as they used to be in Kingdom so far, doing a good job trying to get away these global presence gods.
Bans coming out, Kingdom Esports say no Neith and no Athena, whereas Eager are starting to ban out that jungle. Thor and Ratatoskr banned out.
So many globals off the table for both of these teams. I'm really surprised. With the jungle already being locked in for Eager, it makes sense why they banned away the Thor and Ratatoskr. It keeps her Soul in a very safe position. You're allowing her to farm, get to that late game form where you see a lot of player damage in the late game, and it's usually Soul.
Yeah, I mean, Stellar Burst, Supernova, it's disgusting. You don't want to deal with it. And I mean, it takes up like half the lane. It's like half the lane.
Especially when Susano can find the multi-man pulls, which will set up Soul for some beautiful damage. Fenrir being locked in from Kingdom. Very aggressive front line already with his Fenrir Bacchus.
Fenrir is one of the best level 1 gods, in my opinion. You can dish out so much damage, even some CC potential if you get all those runes up to jump in for the stun.
And the thing about this Fenrir pick is it's still a flex pick between solo and jungle, honestly, because there's no solo lane dedicated for Kingdom quite yet, unless it's Chronos solo lane, but that's a little far-fetched in this position. Eager gonna lock in Geb, though.
Yeah, please no solo Chronos. Geb and Ice is gonna be locked in. Geb gonna provide a little bit of defense with that Geb shield. You have to put a lot of trust as a solo laner. I mean, when it comes to that with this support, how does that trust build up?
So by picking Geb for Eager, you're relying on the solo laner for Robin for Dwurst to go ham in the backline, and then if he ever gets Ragnarok for whatever reason, he's gonna be relying on the support to cleanse that Ragnarok just to get back into the safety of his own team.
All right, and last pickup from Kingdom Esports going to be Chaac. More than likely going to be that solo pick. Not going to see the solo Fenrir. More than likely a jungle, magical ADC Chronos with the Bacchus as well. And yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, lots of magical ADC coming out from both teams prior to, but we're going to have to find out just exactly how these team comps work, as well as these new team rosters jumping in.
So looking at Kingdom's roster, they have Sealcar on solo lane, TheYungHomie in jungle, Giliara guy, who was formerly known as Kidas the last week, and then DaleyDale on the support, as well as Hotbow coming back into the SCL on the Chronos.
Yep, Hotbow has a little bit of a history, as well as Seal. Seal has a little bit of a history when it comes to Omega coming in with some of these fights there.
I've heard that story. Why don't you tell it before?
All right, so it was Omega was having a little bit of controller issues, wasn't really able to ult off as well as he could have, and Seal was able to solo him for it, so he soloed Omega twice, stipulations aside.
Well, get shit on Omega.
Dang. But waiting on this start, not looking like we're going to see any invades. Bacchus, towards his Gold Fury, probably going to place a deep ward, and their vision's important. If you could just come around this corner, he's alone.
There's
so,
going to be an invade on the red buff. Bacchus going for the Wrath. This is a very common strategy in the SPL, and already DaleyDale doing a great job securing the first objective invade.
And see, here I thought it was just going to be a deep ward. He's by himself, but that's a lot of confidence. And I mean, a lot of confidence in Wrath as well. He's the only one that's picked it up for Kingdom, and Team Eager haven't picked one up themselves. That's going to put Kingdom in a little bit of an advantage.
And in the dual lane specifically, the Geb is very weak in terms of pushing power, so this is going to be a huge advantage for Kingdom trying to get this Chronos ahead of the Soul early on.
I mean, and Soul has a little bit of advantage there, but Chronos is clear, is going to be able to add that CC in, as Geb just realized.
And with the red buff also on the Bacchus, that's going to give him more of the pushing power. Now, granted, the first wave favors the Soul Geb because of the fact that they got to the wave first, but either way, this next second and third wave, the Bacchus and Chronos are really going ham. But in mid lane, it's going to be the Isis Susano against the Fenrir Raijin.
I mean, in Fenrir, I like the mobility. He's going to be able to jump out of these spirit balls if he needs to, but you want to save that more for either getting away or if you know you're going to get aggressive, like right now, Dale getting aggressed upon, lots of damage, but it's not going to be enough. They're not going to be able to lock him down, but Hotbow, he's one shot away. They're not going to be able to lock him down either.
Didn't have the Stellar Burst available just to pick off Hotbow, and now, unfortunately, for this Chronos Bacchus, they have to be very careful about how they really engage here. You cannot use your belly flop without having meditation. You went the Wrath, you invaded the red, that's all fine and dandy, but you don't have the same amount of sustain as a result.
The pushing power coming out from Eager is really impressive, both in the duo lane and in the mid lane. They've backed off to go and take these back camps, but for the most part, these two lanes have been pushed up. The aggression is real coming out from Eager. They want that early pressure.
They're not afraid of the gank from the jungler right now, even without any sort of deep wards between the Isis and the Susano right now. They're feeling really confident that they're going to be able to push out mid, make the rotational calls to allow this dual lane, who is not supposed to be this aggressive with Geb, to remain on the offensive.
Dwurst looking pretty comfortable on this god that he likes. Get out of jail free kick, out of some damage. But, I mean, just going to get slowed for the most part. A little bit of a boxing match. I have to give it to the Chaac, though. That sustains a little bit better than the Ravana.
As long as you can keep your passive up, you don't really even have to worry about blue buff. This allows you to go into the Bluestone Pendant, which helps you clear more, whereas Ravana has to go into the Death Toll just for the sustain. And now Chaac, he can bait out the overhead kick every time he axes. He can be very patient, bait that out, and then the second cooldown, your axe will be up before the second kick.
So who's setting the pace for this game? We're 2 minutes, about 42 seconds in. We haven't really seen a lot of action except for the Bacchus coming in for that buff steal.
Well, already we see some action in the Fire Giant Elemental. Chaac was in a 1v2 spot, but underneath already the Fenrir making the rotation could potentially jump on the Isis.
Good stun. Fenrir looking for the opportunity to jump, as mentioned. Delta Marine, you don't want to get him fed. Going to miss the jump, but here comes Chaac coming in. The Brutalize going to stick to him, and the ultimate, but the Ragnarok is going to be used to get away. Dwurst going to find the first kill for Eager, and now Jellly may be in a pretty bad spot. Giliara gonna find him. Here come the taiko drums. One more shot. He's not gonna find it. He's so close, but he's gonna get pinched.
Delta Marine, though, gets answered in response already. Kingdom Esports finding two, but in response, Eager getting a second of their own. And this is gonna be a third. If Dwurst can connect on one more shot, the slow is gonna prevent Dwurst from catching up, but all he needs to do is find the overhead kick and more slows.
The slow, the heal, and the pot are working in Sealcar's favor. He's found one hit, but at this point, it's gonna be a very slow boxing match. Dwurst not really going to be able to keep up, and he's not in a position to dive the tower yet.
So overall, that was a great 2 for 2, I would say, in Eager's favor, because the way Kingdom initiated that, they really botched it up by not being able to lock down Delta Marine fast enough. That circle protection bought so much time during the Brutalize to get back all that health sustain, and now the speed buff and blue buff for Delta and Jellly are not going to be able to be invaded on. With this Bacchus Wrath, you really want to try to snowball for this early relic.
Previously with Team Eager, we've seen the strategy more or less be feed Delta Marine and lock down these objective controls. So, I mean, good on the Isis at this point, only one death, but those assists are going to help her get fed.
Yeah, this is something you have to be careful about with Isis, is the positioning, especially against Fenrir and the Bacchus. Not having the third member here means that Eager has to concede those left side mids, but with the rotation from dueling, this could easily be a team fight.
Myflin looking for it. Going to be a good teleport out from Giliara, however. Dale doing some good zoning as well, so instead, Team Eager going to back off. Not really going to be able to lock down Kingdom Esports just yet, and instead, they're going to take their prize of those mid-harpies.
They're going also for the red buff, immediately recognizing that 3 members from Kingdom went to the tier 1 mid tower, giving up positioning around this red buff. It's going to allow AirCougar to just walk away after picking it up.
To separate, going to keep him safe just in case he wanted to get aggressive or punish him for getting a little too deep in their jungle. But now they're going to switch out that pressure back into the mid lane. I mean, as a player mentality, what do you do when that buff gets stolen? You don't have you didn't set that timer by yourself. The team has lost both those mid harpies, and now they're getting aggressive here. Here comes the Ragnarok, pulling him out of the ultimate and into another one. Giliara gonna find credit with the taiko drums, and now Giliara forced the Thunder Crash away, but even still, he's getting chased by Jellly.
Jellly doing a good job finding the return kill, trading mid for mid. Myflin just biding a lot of time to allow this rotation from Dwurst to come into effect, as well as Sealcar trailing behind AirCougar right now. Myflin just trying to set up more kills.
Ooh, lots of damage coming out. Hotbow forced into the rewind, and now, I mean, it's a little bit of a boxing match with Sealcar. Gonna have a little bit of extra defense coming out from the Geb shield as well, but that's gonna force out the Chaac ultimate. Everybody's silenced, and Myflin's gonna get brutalized. That's gonna keep with you. You can't run away from that.
And a nice knock up onto AirCougar. It's gonna be in the separate form. Has to disengage because the respawn from Isis is now available. The Raijin coming back in. The Bacchus does have Wrath and Kingdom. They're gonna try to go for this Gold Fear, but they are a little low. They have to respect the fact that Dwurst and Delta Marine are enough to get all these kills.
Yeah, YoungHomie definitely had to back off. He took one hit from that Gold Fury and decided he didn't want any of that. So instead, Eager going to disperse, get their own camps, which, you know, are accentuated by the fact they took the other teams on Kingdom side as well.
So the way that teamfight initiated before was the fact that Delta Marine didn't have Purification to get away from the Ragnarok, and on top of that, Myflin wasn't in position to cleanse it out. And mid lane, however, Sealcar is trying to find some poke.
Found a good pull, not going to connect with Delta Marine's Spirit Ball, however, not going to have that stun, and instead going to get a nice clean disengage.
And with that rotation from Sealcar, Dwurst able to pick up the Fire Giant Elementals and pushed out the wave, so that means Sealcar has to go back to the wave, and there's a lot of flexibility for what Dwurst wants to do. He can look for the speed buff invade just to be annoying. He could prevent Fenrir from getting his own speed potentially here.
He's sitting around this corner waiting for Giliara more than likely. He's waiting for the pull coming out from the Susano. He's going to dive deep and instead change his sight back to Dale, but both of them have a way to escape with the Thunder Crash and the jump.
Doing so much poke in mid lane allows Eager to now rotate to this Gold Fury. They have to be careful though, they don't have the Wrath available, so they're going to try to bait it out already. They're looking for somebody from Kingdom to overstep. One pull from the Susano should get a kill.
And instead, a little bit of a shot onto the Gold Fear. YoungHomie might have been the target to get out, but instead going to jump over the wall. Take the mid camps while you're here at least.
Kingdom sniffed it out. Great positioning from Eager, but then a better recognition from Kingdom. And now looking for a team fight is the shot going into the ult, and Ragnarok finding Delta Marine.
Get chunked. So much damage. Jellly taking a double kill. YoungHomie as well as the Bacchus. Giliara trying to get away with the Thunder Crash, but Dwurst Mystic rushing in. Gonna find the kill. Now Sealcar a little too tanky. Not gonna be able to box him down, and instead that's gonna be a trade.
And Jellly recognizing the fact that Hotbow has overextended ever so slightly, gonna zone him out is AirCougar. And I like the fact that Eager, they didn't really care or worry about Delta Marine getting instantly picked off there. There was just too many cooldowns being used on this solo Isis, just being able to use Ragnarok, the Chaac ultimate. There's no counter engage response once Eager decides to commit.
Myflin just following Sealcar at this point, putting a little bit of pressure on. I mean, waiting for Dwurst to come on in. Gonna help out with this blue camp, though. Give him a little bit of extra mana, a little bit of sustainability in this lane against the Chaac, who has that already built into his kit.
So already, off of this team fight, it looks like Eager, they didn't want to respond with anything too crazy after getting that 3-for-1. They're very content about getting their own buffs and slowing down the pace of the game. They're very comfortable, I would say, with their late game, with the Geb having a lot of health with his shield, keeping Delta Marine alive, keeping AirCougar alive. And on top of that, AirCougar, his damage is just going to skyrocket as the game progresses.
And speaking about comfortable, look who's comfortable. Jellly on that Susano right now, 3-1-1, level 9, a level above the Fenrir. Just so much pressure, being able to take these clutch pulls and, I mean, bring a lot of that damage to the team fight. Watching these health bars just deplete so quickly.
That's what Eagers are trying to do. They're trying to find these pulls and the poke, and that's what Susano is allowing the team to really do. He engages very cleanly with that jet stream. He's not being capitalized on with any sort of crowd control, because on the side of Kingdom, they have a Ragnarok and then a Bacchus belly flop. And if Bacchus isn't there, committing a Ragnarok onto it is not worth it.
Hotbow taking a lot of damage. Jellly trying to find him, gonna find the pull, force out the purification, but the Typhoon gonna knock him out.
And this is a small little win for Eager. They're not going to be able to really overextend too much once Bacchus and Raijin commit to the rotation. Going to be poking out the tier 1 tower on the left just a little bit, but has to be careful because they need to keep looking for the farm. They don't want to waste too much time. Hotbow's respawning in 10 seconds.
I like the fact that they were taking those camps up at the top, decided when that kill was something that was going to be pursued. They stopped, turned at a 180 and went for the kill instead, the bigger priority.
There's no wards to spot out these rotations from Eager, and in the solo lane, Sealcar just losing the trade with Dwurst at this point. Have to be careful. Allow these melee minions to enter your tower, just clear out the archers instead.
TheYungHomie taking the speed camp from himself at this point. Looked like it was the wrong one, but now Sealcar losing that trade. Once again, taking a lot of damage, popping the heal, but Dwurst is the boxing champ. Is going to be forced out, though. You don't want to get too aggressive, overstep your boundaries.
You want to be careful because you don't have any wards to spot out rotations in mid lane. However, Myflin finding a nice knock up onto Giliara. He's able to Thunder Crash away. There's no Typhoon to clean up, though, but there is the circle of protection.
Beautiful. Delta Marine couldn't lock him down with the Spirit Ball. Instead, popped the ultimate and was able to take that kill either way.
And now with that one pick onto Giliara, it's going to be a 15-second respawn. They're going to be able to confirm these left side mid harpies just zoning the Bacchus away while Chronos grabbing his own boards. AirCougar, though, he wants to be aggressive.
Every little step at this point, Cougar is going to be able to have the help from his teammates. It's going to be a good shield on Marine, boxing with Sealcar in the mid lane.
They're trying to find some poke on the ice, zoning her away from this team fight that's about to happen around the Gold Fury. Susano looking for something around the corner with AirCougar. It could be the Chaac. He's not very mobile without his axe.
No, and he had used the axe previously to chunk a good bit of damage coming out from the Isis, so instead going to play a little bit more passive. I wanted to see a rotation coming out from Eager to pinch them in the back, but instead there was a call to fall back.
It looks like they wanted to put some pressure onto Hotbow instead. He was doing those boards. It's always a good idea to try to continuously pressure a Chronos, especially if that Chronos is 2 levels behind the Soul. Working on a Warlock stash, you want to be able to force these team fights before the stacks come online.
Okay, you'll be able to beef those up a little bit more. Good Spirit Ball, going to secure that speed camp, get a little bit of experience for it as well. Just farming out of the jungle at this point, but I'm really impressed with the pressure Eager have been putting throughout this entire game. We didn't really get to see that in their last set last week.
And Kingdom, they haven't been able to really snowball off of the Wrath onto DaleyDale. They found the red buff invade. They weren't able to really force Gold Furies or any other invades on top of this, and all the little skirmishes have been going into Eager's way, and AirCougar able to take advantage of the fact that Chronos isn't there on left.
Thunder Crash forced away. Jellly and Myflin doing a good job of trying to find a pick, find that pull, find anything at this point. But, I mean, rotation, looking at Hotbow, not able to defend his tower. AirCougar just taking rid of it. He's a tower burner.
That's what happens when you're 2 levels ahead and you're able to zone it out. And now DaleyDale taking a lot of poke. A nice burp preventing the knockup. Still going in, though. Jellly doesn't have much mana. The long-range snipes are good.
Long range going to find it, but the Ragnarok forcing out the purification, not going to be able to find him. And Giliara taking a lot of damage from Delta Marine. Not going to be able to find it with the Supernova, but instead charging forward is AirCougar. There comes the Disapparate, and there goes Kingdom.
Jellly, unfortunately, sacrificing his life, but did poke out a lot of members from Kingdom, and with AirCougar rotating, he has enough heat to really shred the tower at this point. Trading Jellly for a tier 1 mid, that's definitely worth it, especially if they find DaleyDale here.
I mean, Dale looking very low. TheYungHomie trying to jump forward. Good stun coming out from Delta Marine, forcing the Brutalize to get away. Another movement ability that makes Fenrir so slippery.
And just still applying so much pressure. Have to respect the fact that Giliara has come back into the mid lane, though, but as a response, Eager, Dwurst just looking for the blue buff invade on the right-hand side.
I mean, Dwurst trying to take a camp. They're almost taking down a tower. They took one earlier on the duo side. This is a great trade for Eager for just losing Jellly.
They're just slowly applying more pressure. They're not going for the Gold Fury, and I like this idea because of the fact that Daley has this Wrath. You don't want him to get an advantage off of it. Just look for the pick slowly and surely. Play off of your level advantages in the side lanes.
It's baby steps. I mean, you got a lot riding on this. Both of these teams got 2-0'd last week, so they want to go ahead and really put their names on the board, and one of them are going to at least.
And with that already, AirCougar just constantly making these rotations on the left side mid harpies. He's been able to secure that for himself in 1v2, still rotating between mid and left, and this is really scary for Kingdom to deal with because a late game Soul is one of the worst things you can really be against.
I mean, and it's going to be disgusting. Looking at Raijin real quick, 4-4-1, doing a lot of damage when it comes, or when it feels like these big team fights are happening, but when I look at the numbers, he's nowhere near the top at all.
As long as he's getting set up by the Bacchus and the Ragnarok. Myflin using this purification just to avoid Homie's Ragnarok. Great job, Jellly poking out Giliara and DaleyDale as well.
Dale taking a bit of damage. There's not really any follow-up coming out from some of these pulls. If anything, it's just to be a nuisance, tag a little bit of damage, and eventually force them out.
Just maybe force a purification off of it. You could also use your first ability and then dash away very safely, which makes Susano such a high priority pick and ban. The fact that he can go in and out.
In and out indeed, but here comes a Cataclysm. Lots of damage. Jellly gonna find Dale finally. That's gonna be the Wrath down for a bit, but Sealcar coming in with the ultimate good silence, but not gonna be able to lock anybody down, but forcing out the Sanctuary from Delta Marine. Giliara, though, forcing out the Sanctuary as well as the Thunder Crash. Not going to be able to find him, but Jellly going to find Hotbow.
Hotbow not able to get the rewind off. Now Sealcar has nowhere to go off of the axe. A great circle protection just to confirm the kill off of this. 2-0. Tier 1 tower going to get pressured immediately. No hesitation. Gold Fury going in the way of Eager's favor. The Bacchus is not going to get here in time to wrath it.
I mean, that was my first thought. As soon as I saw Bacchus fall, that wrath is gone. If they can just come out of this team fight alive, then they're not going to have any issues taking out this Gold Fury. So 15 minutes, 46 seconds into the game, 11-6 stand the kills, and 8K, 6K respectively in favor of Eager.
And now Kingdom, they have to figure out a way to shut down the aggression from Eager. They have to start warding around to spot out their rotation, see where AirCougar is heading to, because wherever AirCougar is going, that's where the action is going to be. You have to try to get Hotbow in a position to keep farming. He only has 12 stacks on his Warlock Sash. He's going into the Wingblade now just to get more mobility, more health, just to survive these team fights, because we saw he wasn't even able to get off his rewind in that team fight.
I mean, he was just exploded so quickly. There's a 3-level deficit between him and Soul as well. The net worth, the gold coming out for them is so different as well. That's not just kills. That's being denied farm.
And already Delta Marine just pushing out mid. We'll see what Eager tries to go from here, right? They need to try to continue the team fight while they have this experienced lead, and then try to look for more objectives. Kingdom, they have to be able to respond. A lot of level deficits. We see the difference between Homie and Jellly. 3-level deficit, and that's not something you want on a Fenrir.
Exactly. I mean, when Fenrir gets behind, he's my favorite guy, but when he gets behind, it's really, really hard to bring him back because he's up in your face. He's there. He has to stick to you to get that main form of damage with that Brutalize. Cougar taking a bit of damage, however. Hotbow going to find the better end of him, forcing out the Disapparate and the Supernova. Not only going to connect once, but now the rest of his team is here, at least with Myflin, forcing out that rewind. But now Cougar going to have a little bit of help with the defense, and Hotbow's so low.
Jellly should be able to confirm this kill, no problem. No rotations in time. Bacchus makes the belly flop, but it's not in position. A nice double knock-up from the Typhoon. Still going aggressive, though, with Delta Marine finding the stun.
Good stun. Giliara forcing out that Purification, forcing out that Thunder Crash, and still Delta Marine. Maybe a bit of a misfinger there as well, but Dale going to get pulled in and pinched between 3 members, forcing out the jump, but the stun's not going to connect.
TheYungHomie, he needs to look for his timing to Ragnarok once the Cleanse Shield is down from Myflin. That's the go-to target. Isis Purification was used, so that could be a good opportunity. TheYungHomie just has to be patient.
Yep, and Kingdom Esports going to keep grouped up, maybe chase down Eager just a little bit. There's one person that is by himself, and that's going to be AirCougar, but the Disapparate's going to keep him pretty well. Good stun coming out from Delta Marine. Good pull coming out too, but there's not too much follow-up coming out. Now Eager's just finally coming back.
Dwurst now making the rotation. The Ragnarok being used, but it's onto Myflin. It doesn't matter because Sealcar dies in the back.
Taiko Drums coming in, but not going to do hardly any damage. Dwurst jumping in, taking out Giliara, and now the chase is on, waiting for the stun. Boom! Homie taking a chunk of damage. Going to get taken out by Jellly.
These stuns from Delta Marine have just been on point, setting up so much follow-up from Eager, and now with that tier 2 tower down, Eager not done. They're going to continue on. Hotbow, he doesn't have rewind. He's just now forced into Sector, and another great stun from Delta.
He's on point with these. It's absolutely amazing. Good pull, good Typhoon, then knock up onto Dale. The Cataclysm, the CC chain is too much, and once again, Dale is going to fall. Cougs going to take credit for the kill, and Eager going to take credit for this Phoenix.
This is the Eager that I know is able to perform at this level. Off of their lead in the early game, they have just been on a complete rampage with these team fights, and it's credit to these rotations, I would say, from AirCougar as well as Dwurst, being able to apply pressure into their own side lanes and then collapsing into the middle and the jungle fights whenever it happens, and this is why they've got themselves already an 11,000 gold lead.
And they're not the only team that's really benefited from these solo rotations and from the ADCs, but we're going to see those teams tomorrow. Today, this is all about the NA, and right now, this is all about Eager with their 16K experience and 10,000 gold lead.
We talked about how Kingdom really needed to slow down the pace of the game, start spotting out these rotations. Unfortunately, Eager was just forcing the issue, just doing too much work for Kingdom to handle. Now, as a result, it's going to be even more difficult to come back in because they're going to be relying on a miracle Fire Giant steal.
I mean, and we may see it. Bacchus still has the Wrath. It's going to be down for 50 seconds, but I don't see Team Eager really aggressing on this Fire Giant too much. Instead, we're going to have a rotation back onto Sealcar. Going to get the stun, going to get the knockup, going to get the silence, forcing the ult, and once again, Sealcar going to fall to his lane partner, Dwurst.
Just no wards to spot out these rotations. We see Eager has the wards around Fire Giant, even around the speed buff of Kingdom. And now after the tier 1 tower, they're playing so methodical. Every little step they do, they don't care about Fire Giant. They want to get even more gold with these towers on the right-hand side.
Every action has been so calculated. Where will this put pressure on the map? How much pressure will this give me? How much leeway, and how will I be able to run with this?
And now they're going to start the Fire Giant. Sealcar is still dead for 20 seconds. Teleport will be available once he respawns. As long as Bacchus is not in position for the Wrath, Eager to have nothing to worry about. They have Dwurst zoning him out.
Yeah, Dale is nowhere near. He's being zoned out by Dwurst. Even if he got a burp and then tried to run and jump here as quick as possible, it wouldn't be enough time. And now he's got himself out of position, possibly. Mystic Rush over the wall. The jump's already been spin out of Dale. Myflin's here as well. The rest of the team are going to be able to collapse and take him out.
And with that 30-second respawn timer already going onto the right side, Phoenix, they see that Chronos is on the left, farming, split pushing, getting rid of the fire minions on the left, making it less pressure on the Titan. But now Myflin doing a good job zoning. Purification is used to avoid the Ragnarok. And now Sealcar, he just revived and he's dead again.
He's dead again, and this Phoenix might be as well. Good Cataclysm coming out. Good stun onto Hotbow, but the Purification is going to be popped. It doesn't matter. The bird is down, and now the pressure continues. Typhoon into the fountain, and they're going to go ahead and just start wailing away at this Titan. It's getting pretty low at this point, and now they're trying to defend. Here comes the Taiko drums. The only one that's really low is AirCougar.
AirCougar trying to do so much damage, gets knocked up. The Chronos finds the kill from a distance. Titan, though, is so low. It's at 10% health. Eager, they just need to commit a couple more abilities.
Giliara are going to be able to take out Jellly, and at this point, Dwurst and Delta Marine are a little too outclassed currently between 3 members of Kingdom Esports, but they're not leaving yet. They have the shield. Here comes the res. Giliara going to get kicked. Beautiful stun, 2-man. And at this point, this may be the time they need to just go ahead and sneeze on this Titan.
Delta Marine, that's exactly his thought, but he's going to reset it, getting back to 26% health, sacrificing his own life. Myflin was not there. Dwurst was not there. You have to let these frontline tanky targets be the ones in the lead, and now this Fire Giant has been hurting them as a result. However, once they respawn, they should still be in a good spot. It doesn't seem like Kingdom can really leave their Titan room exposed. They need to start warding around the map.
Because that Titan is solo, they only have 1 Phoenix coming in. You have fire minions pouring down the left and the right side. They're going to have their hands full. They can't get too much. They can't gain too much ground while Eager are recovering.
And the Titan will only regain health once all 3 Phoenixes are respawned. Left side will respawn in about 30 seconds or less, but the right one is about 2 to 2.5 minutes, and that's going to give Eager enough time to really spend all their gold, go for this last push. Even without Fire Giant buff on most of their members, they still have a 12,000 gold lead.
You gotta admit, though, that was a little messy.
It was a little messy from Eager, I would say. They were too ambitious to try to close it out. Considering the fact that they were so slow and methodical about those towers on the left and right, they saw blood once they got the Phoenix on the right. They got that 1 kill onto Hotbow as well. No, I'm sorry, onto Sealcar once he revived, and they thought that they could end it, but they didn't have that circle of protection to prevent all that damage and regain their health.
Well, now what they're doing, they're gonna make sure they have nothing standing in the way for this last assault. They're gonna go ahead and take down this tier 2 tower in the mid lane between Myflin and Jellly, who still have the Fire Giant buff. They're the only 2 remaining ones. They're going to be able to shred a little bit easier, but Sealcar jumping in, the first line of defense and the first one to fall.
And already TheYungHomie trying to find a response with the Ragnarok. Going to go pick up 1, but it's Myflin. He's a little bit tanky right now. You can't really pick him out. Hotbow able to get the rewind off. Mid-Phoenix still being pressured. AirCougar going to be able to shred that, but Hotbow is in no man's land.
Hotbow is going to get pulled right back to no man's land. Jellly going to find him, and now the Taiko drum's coming through, but not going to be able to take anyone out. Instead, they're going to turn back onto this Fenrir. TheYungHomie forced away, completely away from this Titan, from this Phoenix, and now the rest of his team. So at this point, they can turn on the rest of Kingdom and the Titan here.
The Titan has been falling. Eager finally getting credited with the win. Great job with their methodical play, finally securing it out at the end. Despite that little epic fail at the end, they were still going to win that team fight regardless in the mid-Phoenix.
It was a little bit of a slip-up, a little bit of probably a miscommunication. They didn't want to overstep their boundaries, but once they realized that they could have taken it down, there was a step back. They went ahead and regrouped, and then from there they took down the last tower. and then charge through.
And that's what you have to do. You have to strip away the protections and health, the damage from the Titan by eliminating all the towers, all the Phoenixes. They got the blood in their eyes in that last little push, and they went for it. Unfortunately, backfired. But either way, it was a great play from them from the beginning. Even though they lost their red buff, they weren't deterred from it. AirCougar was still, I would say, a big factor in their duo lane.
Exactly. I mean, we kept using the word pressure, but that's really what they did. Every little action brought a little bit more pressure, and then as soon as those towers started to fall, I mean, Kingdom didn't have anywhere to back up to. They had to back up so much that they didn't have any control of their jungle. They didn't have control of these big objectives.
We saw the fact that they got pressured in the mid lane, having to retreat, gave enough timing and positioning for AirCougar to find the red buff invade of his own, despite not finding it in the early game. So now going into game 2, what's going to be dependent is how Kingdom snowballs off of their early game tactics, because it was clearly evident that DaleyDale with the Wrath had the opportunity to invade red in the early game, but didn't really transition off of it.
Okay, so